Ethan Carter stepped off the small shuttle and onto the surface of Aeloria, his boots crunching softly on the crystal-like ground. The light shimmered in colors he had never seen before, reflecting off the tall, angular buildings that seemed to float above the planet's surface. The air was crisp, with a faint hum that came from the energy crystals embedded everywhere. He took a deep breath, trying to calm the excitement and nervousness twisting in his stomach. He had studied alien worlds before, but Aeloria was something entirely different. As he walked toward the grand palace in the center of the city, he couldn't help but stare at the enormous gates. They were carved from a material that looked like glass but felt warm to the touch. Guards stood silently on either side, their alien forms elegant and strong, yet graceful. Their eyes followed him, unblinking, as though measuring his every movement. Ethan swallowed and gave them a respectful nod. Inside the palace, he was led through hallways of floating platforms and softly glowing walls. The air smelled faintly of flowers and minerals. At the heart of the palace was a vast chamber, filled with aliens of every shape and size, each one more breathtaking than the last. The chamber shimmered with soft light, reflecting off the crystals embedded in the floor and walls. And there, at the far end, sat Queen Zira. Her presence was commanding. She seemed to float above her throne, her long robes flowing like liquid starlight. "Welcome, human," she said, her voice both melodic and firm. "I am Queen Zira, ruler of Aeloria. You are here because you are unusual, and we value unusual minds." Ethan bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. It is an honor to study your planet and learn from your people." The Queen's sharp eyes studied him for a long moment. Then she spoke in a tone that made everyone in the room lean forward. "You will marry my daughter and give me strong grandchildren." Ethan froze. The words hung in the air like a heavy stone. He blinked rapidly, trying to process what he had just heard. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I think there must be some misunderstanding," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "I came here as a guest, as a scientist. Marriage. I didn't expect—" "No misunderstanding," the Queen interrupted. "You are unique among humans. Your intelligence, your courage, your moral heart, these qualities are rare. My daughter must have a mate who can help strengthen our bloodline. Humans have abilities that complement ours, and we believe it will ensure the resilience of our future generations." The chamber fell silent. Ethan felt hundreds of alien eyes on him, each one filled with curiosity, judgment, or expectation. He swallowed hard. He had dealt with difficult situations before, but nothing like this. At that moment, Princess Leora entered. She moved with an elegance that made the light seem to bend around her. Her expression was a mix of irritation and disbelief. "Mother," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "Have you lost your mind? A human? For me?" Ethan bowed again, trying to remain polite despite the chaos of his thoughts. "Princess Leora, I assure you I am honored, but I am unprepared for such a responsibility." Leora's eyes narrowed. She looked him up and down, as though trying to figure out whether he was brave, foolish, or simply a curiosity. "Unprepared?" she asked. "You don't even know our ways, our traditions, or the challenges we face, and yet you are expected to give my mother grandchildren?" Ethan gave a small, nervous laugh. No, I cannot claim to understand your ways yet. But I am willing to learn. I am curious, and I am determined to do what is right." The Queen's lips curved into a small, approving smile. "That is why I chose you. You think beyond your own comfort. You see solutions where others see only difficulty. That is what my daughter needs, not just for marriage, but for life." Leora crossed her arms, clearly unimpressed. "Life on Aeloria is not easy for those who do not belong," she said. "Humans are fragile, emotional creatures. Can you survive the trials? Can you prove your worth? Ethan straightened, his nerves slowly being replaced by determination. If survival and proving worth are what you require, then I will face them. I cannot promise anything else, but I will give my best effort. The Queen's eyes glimmered. Very well. Tomorrow there will be a trial. It is designed to test not your strength, but your creativity, your compassion, and your ability to think beyond yourself. If you succeed, you will earn my respect, and perhaps my daughter's. Leora gave a small scoff, though there was a faint flicker of intrigue in her eyes. We shall see, she said simply. Ethan spent the rest of the day exploring the palace under careful guidance. The walls glowed softly with embedded crystals, showing holographic images of Aeloria's history and technology. He marveled at the architecture, at the way the alien culture blended art, science, and ethics. Everywhere he looked, there were challenges of design, puzzles, and mechanisms that required intelligence to operate. In the evening, he was brought to a small chamber with a view of the floating gardens. Leora joined him, not as a princess, but as someone curious. You seem more interested in our technology than in the throne or bloodline, she said, her tone less sharp. Ethan smiled faintly. I am fascinated by your world. Every part of it is beautiful and complex. I want to understand it, not for glory, but for knowledge. Perhaps that is why the Queen sees potential in me. Leora tilted her head. Potential? Or foolish bravery? She asked with a half-smile. Tomorrow, you will face the trial. Many have failed before you. Humans are clever, yes, but cleverness alone will not be enough. I understand, Ethan replied. I will approach it with care and honesty. The night was long, but Ethan could not sleep. He thought about the Queen's command, about the strange turn his life had taken, and about Leora. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, strong, intelligent, and skeptical. And despite her initial displeasure, there was a hint of curiosity in her that mirrored his own. When the morning sun glimmered through the crystalline walls, Ethan felt a mixture of fear and excitement. Today, everything would change. The trial awaited. It was not just a test of intelligence, but of understanding, courage, and perhaps heart. As he entered the ceremonial chamber, Leora was already there, standing tall and confident. The Queen watched silently from her throne. The trial began with a simple question, a complex puzzle embedded into a floating crystal. No one had solved it in generations. Ethan studied the puzzle carefully. Unlike the aliens who relied on years of tradition, he approached it with fresh eyes, considering possibilities they had never imagined. Minutes passed. The chamber held its breath. Then slowly, the crystal shifted, lights cascading across its surface in a pattern that meant success. The aliens gasped. Even Leora's eyes widened in surprise. Ethan exhaled, a mix of relief and pride washing over him. He had passed the first part of the test, not through brute strength, but through thought, observation, and patience. Queen Zira's voice filled the room, calm and approving. You have shown promise, human. This is only the beginning, but it proves what I suspected. You possess qualities that can change Aeloria for the better. Leora approached him, her expression softening, though her eyes still held a challenge. Perhaps you are more capable than I believed, she admitted. Tomorrow, the next phase begins. It will test your judgment and your heart. Ethan nodded, feeling a spark of hope. He had survived the first step. He had earned their attention, perhaps even respect. And though he had not yet accepted the Queen's command, he knew that this strange, dazzling world had already changed him. As he looked out at the floating gardens and the sparkling city beyond, he felt a quiet determination. He would face whatever came next, not just for the Queen, not just for Leora, but because he believed in his own ability to make a difference, even on a world far from Earth. And so, with the sun rising behind the crystalline towers, Ethan prepared himself for the next challenge, unaware that each step forward would bring him closer to a future he could never have imagined. The next morning, the ceremonial chamber was filled with a soft hum, like the resonance of the crystals themselves. Ethan Carter stood in the center, feeling the weight of expectation pressing on his shoulders. Today's trial would not be solved by cleverness alone. It was designed to test judgment, empathy, and understanding, qualities that could not be faked or rushed. Princess Leora arrived first, her movements calm, deliberate, and full of quiet authority. She watched Ethan closely, her eyes studying his posture, his expression, and even the way he breathed. "The first trial was simple in comparison," she said softly. "Today, you will face the challenges of choice. How you act will determine whether you are truly worthy of this place and of the future my mother envisions." Ethan nodded. "I understand. I will do my best." Queen Zira's voice filled the chamber, resonant and measured. "The trial is not one of physical strength nor of speed. It is a trial of perception. You will be presented with situations involving our people, our environment, and our technology. You must choose wisely, with thought and care. Your decisions will reveal your heart." The first scenario appeared as a holographic projection above a floating crystal. It showed a section of the city's water distribution system failing due to a sudden shift in the crystal currents. Several alien families were at risk of losing access to clean water. The hologram highlighted multiple potential solutions, each with its own set of consequences. Ethan studied the projection carefully. He noticed small details the aliens seemed to overlook: subtle energy imbalances, the structural patterns of the crystalline channels, and the priorities of the families involved. He suggested a solution that involved redirecting energy flow temporarily, combining manual and automated adjustments, a solution that preserved the system and minimized disruption. The projection responded instantly, showing success. Water returned to the families, the energy balanced, and no harm done. The chamber murmured in astonishment. Leora's eyes widened slightly. She had not expected the human to think with such precision and empathy simultaneously. "Interesting," she murmured. "You are learning quickly." The next scenario was more personal. A group of young aliens had accidentally created a chemical reaction while experimenting with energy crystals. The reaction could have been dangerous, but the chamber offered multiple ways to respond. Ethan could isolate the young aliens, punish them, or find a solution that taught them safely. He chose the last option. He created a controlled simulation, allowing the young aliens to observe and understand the reaction without risk. They learned from their mistakes, their curiosity nurtured rather than suppressed. Queen Zira's expression softened. "This is not just cleverness, human. This is leadership. You consider consequences, and you teach rather than punish. These qualities are rare even among our own." Finally, the third scenario appeared. It involved a moral dilemma. An alien elder required a rare crystal to heal a disease. But the only available crystal was intended for an important scientific experiment that could benefit the entire city. Choosing between the life of one and the benefit of many was a choice no one had made correctly in the past. Ethan paused. He thought about his own world, about human ethics, and about the value of every life. Then he proposed a solution that involved creating a temporary duplicate of the crystal, using a combination of alien technology and his knowledge of human material science. It was risky, but it could save the elder without compromising the experiment. The hologram shimmered, showing success. The elder was healed, the experiment continued, and the city prospered. Gasps echoed in the chamber. Leora's gaze softened further. She had expected rigidity and failure, Instead, she saw a human who combined creativity, compassion, and courage in ways that even her own people struggled to achieve. The Queen finally spoke. "You have succeeded, Ethan Carter. You have demonstrated intelligence, empathy, and foresight. You have earned your place in this trial, and perhaps more importantly, you have earned our respect." Ethan exhaled slowly, feeling relief, pride, and something deeper stirring in his chest. For the first time, he truly felt he belonged, at least in this moment, on this alien world, among these people. Leora stepped forward, her expression no longer stern but curious. "You have shown qualities few can claim," she admitted. "And yet this world is not easy. You will face challenges beyond trials, beyond tests. Our culture, our traditions, they are not simple. Do you think you can adapt, human?" Ethan met her gaze steadily. "I do not know everything about your world, and I will make mistakes. But I am willing to learn, to listen, and to work together. If that is what is required, I will try my best." A faint smile touched Leora's lips. "Perhaps that is enough for now." Queen Zyra rose from her throne, her form regal and radiant. "It is not enough for only the trial, human. It is enough for my vision. I see a future in which humans and Aelorians work together, where differences are strengths and knowledge is shared. My daughter will guide you, and you will guide her in return. Together, you will help create a lineage that embodies the best of both worlds." Ethan nodded, the weight of responsibility settling comfortably on his shoulders. It was daunting, yes, but also exhilarating. This was a chance to do more than survive, to do more than explore. He could build, create, and contribute to something lasting. In the following days, Ethan and Leora spent more time together. They explored the palace gardens, walking along paths lined with luminescent plants and floating stones. They discussed science, art, philosophy, and the ethics of leadership. Each conversation brought new understanding. Ethan learned to see the world through Leora's eyes, and she began to appreciate the unique perspectives a human mind could bring. They laughed together, too. Ethan's attempts to imitate Aelorian customs often ended in clumsy but humorous results. Leora found herself smiling in ways she had not in years, enjoying the human's honesty and good-heartedness. One evening, they sat on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights shimmered like stars, reflecting on the crystal towers and the floating gardens. Ethan turned to Leora. "I never imagined my life would bring me here," he said softly. "I never imagined I would be part of something so much bigger than myself." Leora looked at him, her eyes thoughtful. "Life rarely goes as we plan," she said, "but sometimes the unexpected can be better than anything we imagined." In that moment, the tension of the Queen's command seemed to fade. What had begun as an obligation, the human marrying her daughter and strengthening the royal lineage, was slowly transforming into a choice. A bond was forming, not through duty, but through respect, understanding, and the quiet beginnings of affection. Queen Zyra watched from her throne room, a small, satisfied smile on her face. She had seen many humans, many attempts at alliance or integration, but Ethan was different. He did not rely on force, nor on cunning alone. He relied on thought, empathy, and courage, the qualities that she knew could give her grandchildren a future stronger than anything Aeloria had ever known. The day of the formal announcement arrived. The palace was filled with citizens and dignitaries from across the planet. Ethan stood beside Leora, feeling both nervous and proud. Queen Zyra stepped forward, her voice ringing clear and authoritative. "Ethan Carter has proven himself worthy," she declared. "He has shown intelligence, kindness, and courage. He has faced our trials and earned our respect. My daughter has seen his heart, and together, They will shape the future of our people." Ethan looked at Leora. Her eyes met his, no longer filled with skepticism but with trust. She gave a slight nod. And he understood that whatever the future held, they would face it together. As the crowd cheered, Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. This was not just acceptance, it was connection. He had crossed the stars and found a place where he belonged, not because he had to, but because he had earned it. And as Queen Zira envisioned the future, her mind filled with hope and pride. She saw grandchildren who would inherit the best of both species, the wisdom of Aeloria and the ingenuity and heart of humanity. A new chapter was beginning, one built not on command alone, but on mutual respect, courage, and the quiet, extraordinary power of the human spirit. For Ethan, the journey was only beginning, but he knew one thing for certain. On this planet, among these people, he had found a purpose, and perhaps even a family. The sun set over the crystalline towers, painting the city in colors that only Aeloria could produce, and Ethan felt a quiet happiness he had never known. He had come as a guest, but he would stay as something more. Together, he and Leora would face the challenges of tomorrow, ready to build a future that neither human nor alien could have achieved alone. And somewhere in the palace, Queen Zira smiled, knowing that her vision, once bold and uncertain, was now coming to life, strong, bright, and filled with hope.